your policy is not well thought out, you are actually killing the smallholders.
Do you think that Europe has been hypocritical on this?
Absolutely. Brussels should have helped us instead of attacking us.
The EU's law to ban deforestation from the supply chains of its companies is frustrating trade partners abroad. Just take Indonesia, which has valuable minerals for use in tech like batteries and computer chips. It says the regulation is harming its small farmers. The spat comes as the two are thrashing out a free trade deal. So does the EU back down on its environmental principles or put at risk its relationship with Indonesia and potentially cut off a vital supply chain? I spoke with Indonesia's ambassador to Germany, asking him if they're close to sealing a deal.
For us, it's, in general, the largest element, which is timber and palm oil, I think we are confident it is not a big problem. So I think, all in all, the question for us is that, is EU ready?
Is EU ready? Because the EU would be asking, are you ready to abide by the anti-deforestation laws?
We are ready. We are ready because it has to be. The question is that will EU implement EUDR without discriminations? For instance, vegetable oils, okay, palm oil. Palm oil is the only vegetable oil with stringent certifications. Rapeseed in Europe, no certifications. Soybean in Europe, no certifications. Will EU farmer that has received billions and billions of euros of subsidy, are they willing to be, putting a stringent requirement? So we are ready.
You said in a tweet, Europe's mature forests are dying. EU lost 2.2 million hectares of forest. But I hear no massive protests from those who scream about deforestation in the global south. Why? So do you think that Europe has been hypocritical on this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly, that is my question. Is EU ready in the EUDR, for instance? We've done a survey with professor from Göttingen University and Indonesian University, Gajah Mada. Out of 27 member states, only half knows the treaty that we signed in 2013. Member states don't really, either, I want to be blunt, either they're not willing or they're not able to promote our product. So this is a legally binding treaty, mind you, okay, ratified by all members of parliament in EU, ratified by our parliament. So it's very strong, stronger than EUDR. Okay. And yet, Brussels has no commitment to implement what is already agreed. So then the question is always, from my side, where is your fair treatment and are you ready?
Look at it from the EU's position, right?
Yes.
They're going to say, if we say we want, environmental standards and this kind of thing, and yet let big financial institutions invest in companies that are carrying out deforestation, then that is going to be a massive point of hypocrisy for the EU. So they have to do something. You're saying smallholders won't be affected by this at all. Everything will be fine as long as the EU implements what has been agreed fully.
False. Because the problem is with the smallholders. The big companies, the big investors, as you rightly mentioned, they are sensitive to public image, right? They are sensitive to criticism, they are sensitive to attacks by NGO. So they are the ones who actually have the drive, positive drive, to become green and sustainable. The problem with the smallholder is that we have, first of all, around 41% of the 16 million hectare of palm oils plantation owned by smallholders. Small mean half hectare up to 3-4 hectares. And they might not have the land title. So what is going to happen is that because of the segregation system that EU put on the EUDR, so the big companies, they said, well, okay, I'm sorry, small farmers, I'm not going to take your products. I want to be sure it's coming from my own property, and I'm sorry about you. It's not my problem because I'm going to sell to EU.
But what's your message to the EU on that point?
The message is very simple, that your policy is not well thought out. Your aim is to create free deforestation, but you are actually killing the smallholders who have nothing to do with deforestation. Okay, so if you really want to be serious in this fight against deforestation, which we are also very serious, you can engage us much more robustly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to move on to nickel.
Yes.
Specifically nickel. So
Yeah.
Indonesia is expected to meet 2/3 of the world's needs for nickel, which is obviously vital in the manufacture of
Yeah.
batteries for electric
Indeed.
vehicles,
Yeah.
for mobile phones and so on. But there are complexities. So the nickel price has come down quite a bit in the last 18 months. It's a very carbon intensive industry.
Indeed.
And not all of the nickel being produced is yet battery grade. So what is Indonesia doing to meet these challenges?
So first of all, I think it's to get a better smelting system. The furnace is better, okay? And in that regard, we are inviting foreign investors. So now we have Chinese already in Indonesia, we have Canadians, we have Korean, we have Japanese, and I've been working very hard to bring German investors on this kind of a project. So Brussels should have helped us instead of attacking us, because in the context of FTA between Brussels and Chile, they are willing to allow Chile to process in Chile. So again, it's a double standard. With Chile, they are willing to process the raw materials in Chile. They will willing to allow investment in Chile, but with Indonesia, it's definitely attack.
But the World Trade Organization ruled in the EU's favor. So just
Yeah.
to dig into this to
Of course,
explain.
of course.
So Indonesia imposed a ban on the exportation of
Yeah.
nickel ore so that you could support these smelting industries and so on
Correct.
inside
Correct.
Indonesia.
Correct.
But the EU says that that's unfair, and the World Trade Organization ruled in its favor. So
Okay.
what is the way to settle this dispute at a time when appeals are just not being processed?
Yeah, number one, the question of fair that they are claiming. Our data shows that we never actually exported to EU. There is a shipment from Indonesia to one EU country in one EU port, but the information that I received is that this is a port that collects nickel from Africa.
But
And
the
then
EU might
that-
want to in the future.
Hang on. But this nickel that came from Indonesia, sitting in one European port, they're going back to China. So the question is, what does EU actually wants? Okay,
It wants to secure strategic minerals.
exactly. So why don't you just work with us instead of,
Well, it can't because you've imposed a ban.
No, we open the opportunity for EU to come and to invest in Indonesia, as what the Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Canadians, the French. What's the difference between the French and Brussels? It's the same. so if we have already French investment, and we hope to have two German companies investing in Indonesia, so what's the matter? And if you have a concern about your nickel is not green enough, so come and assist us. We are open for your assistance. We are open for your discussions. If you want to be part of the discussion that is inclusive, non-colonialistic, just extend your hand. And
So you're saying that the EU is behaving in a colonializing manner?
It's not colonialism; it's just imperialism.
Okay. I want to dig more into what
Yes,
you're saying
please.
about the trade imperialism?
Yeah.
How does Indonesia balance its trade relations and the perhaps conflicting interests between the US, the EU, and China?
Yeah. I think first I would like to address the number of the trade. Basically, trade with China is increasing because we have the FTA with China. And now we are increasingly having more trade with the US because we signed EPAF, we signed international partnership. So where is Brussels? If they say we are not open, well, we are open to the US. We have open relations with Australia, with Western countries, with China, with Japan, with South Korea. So I think, coming back to my thesis, is EU ready? whether in trade, whether in EUDR, whether in the nickel. So that is the questions that we want to pose.
Okay, so Indonesia's economy has consistently performed well lately. How have you managed to achieve that and avoid the trap that some countries have fallen into called the resource curse? So it's not just a matter of having lots of resources, therefore you become a developed economy, but rather it's how you manage them. So how has Indonesia managed to do that?
Digital economy is one of them. So if you look at the size of digital economy, they are big and they have nothing to do at all with resource. There are services. There are 5 areas. Media is the largest of our digital economy. E-commerce, fintech, okay, and then also hotels, services, and then food delivery. Very simple, but we are 282 million people. So delivery business is very, very big, especially during the pandemic. And the second, I think, is the age. We have average age of 29 years old, and it means domestic consumption is quite high. And we have a very good controlled inflations, of course, prudence in the state budget, and declining of the unemployment, and coming of the investment. And the investment that comes are not necessarily resource, but also manufacturing as well.
Okay, I just want to end on one thing. Quite simply, what is your message to Olaf Scholz as ambassador of Germany? If you can tell him one thing about what he should do to work with Indonesia, what is your request, what is your ask of him?
Help us in the discussions with the EU to finish the FTA with the EU as soon as possible. And of course, the effect will be bringing more German industries in Indonesia. We even prepare German industrial parks in Indonesia. We have red carpet for German industries, German tourists, German colleagues in Indonesia. We have a very long tradition of relation with Indonesia and Germany. Not very many people know that. But the first European who came to Indonesia was not the Dutch, it was not the Spanish, it was the German doctors 500 years ago. So I would say that we have a very long relations and it's a very positive relation because it's not colored by colonialism. So, you know, Germany has very positive vibes in Indonesia.
So you're looking forward to the next 500 years?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us.
You're welcome. You're welcome.